Welcome to WrestleMania, the showcase of the immortals.
Here we go again, another WrestleMania in the Reliving the War series. Make the most of it because we've only got 2 left after this one. WrestleMania 15 took place on March 28th, 1999 in Philadelphia. Just over 20,000 fans are in attendance and we've got over 800,000 fans watching on pay-per-view. An incredibly good number right here for the WWF. Stone Cold Steve Austin headlines Mania once again when he faces The Rock for the WWF Championship. We've got the Hell in a Cell making its Mania debut when The Undertaker faces the Big Boss Man. And we've also got the Hardcore European Tag, Intercontinental and Women's Championship belts up for grabs in a variety of matches. But before we check out the pay-per-view, let's take a brief look at Sunday Night Heat so we can set the stage a little. Paul Wight and Vince McMahon walk down to the ring and Vince makes a pretty big announcement. Tonight's WWF Championship main event will be a no disqualification match. McMahon says Steve Austin awakened an angry sleeping giant on Raw this past week after he hit the Big Show with a steel chair, but it's okay because the Big Show will be officiating the Rock vs Austin main event tonight at WrestleMania. Keep in mind, Show has to beat Mankind if he wants to referee that match. The Big Show sends a message to Mick Foley's wife. He tells her to remember what Mick looked like before leaving home for WrestleMania because the man coming back to the Foley residence is going to look like a complete mess. The Big Show heard that Mick Foley likes pain, so Mankind's going to love what the Big Show does to him tonight at WrestleMania. The big man's going to mow Mankind down so he can do what he was paid to do in tonight's main event, and that's to protect the WWF Championship and keep it around the waist of the corporate champion. Show then says he's going to leave the ring, head to the arena doors, and he's going to wait for Steve Austin to show up so he can kick his ass. Vince McMahon follows him, and Vince tells Show to take it easy on Austin. Vince still needs a WrestleMania main event. Ivory had a match against Jacqueline on Sunday Night Heat. Jackie won after performing a back suplex, and Terry Runnels decided to stick a cigar in Ivory's face following the matchup. Tori, who's scheduled to face Sable tonight for the Women's Championship, ran down to save Ivory from the Pretty Mean Sisters. D-Generation X then came out to cut a promo. Every member of DX has a match tonight and the boys are ready to win each and every one of them. X-Pac's promo's probably the best of the bunch here. He says Shane McMahon may be the boss's son, but tonight Shane's going to pay some serious dues when he defends his European title against the Kid. Tonight's a pretty significant night when it comes to D-Generation X, so stay tuned in for more. The Rock gets interviewed backstage and he says he's going to lay the smackdown on Steve Austin's candy ass tonight at WrestleMania, and the champ has to remind the audience that this isn't Sing Along with The Rock as the fans echo the Great One's catchphrases. Honestly, if Rock was going up against anyone but Stone Cold, he would have been cheered like a babyface in tonight's main event. Fan support had been building for The Rock again since St. Valentine's Day Massacre. A Battle Royal then took place with the final 2 competitors getting a chance to face Owen, Hart and Jeff Jarrett tonight for the tag team titles. This means the Battle Royal ends when the final 2 are left in the ring. Unfortunately, our main man Steve Motherfucking Blackman was left off the WrestleMania card, but he still got a chance to compete in this Battle Royal. He had to leave early to fight crime on the main streets of Philadelphia though. The Hardy Boys were also in this Battle Royal, as were the Legion of Doom. The LOD's back and they've got Paul Ellering by their side. I was surprised to see 8-Ball and Skull somehow still have jobs in the WWF, but it was D'Lo Brown and Test who were the last 2 men left standing in the ring. An odd pairing for sure. Owen and Double J attacked the Battle Royal winners after the match, but D'Lo and Test will have a chance at revenge later on in the pay-per-view. The Boss Man told fans that the Hell in a Cell is his home and he's gonna make The Undertaker live up to his name of the Dead Man. Boss Man should have kept his mouth shut because the lights go off in the arena. The Undertaker says he'll be Boss Man's personal escort on a trip through the darkness and straight to hell, and Big Bubba then takes a bloodbath. The Brood are also not booked in a WrestleMania match tonight, but they're still going to make their presence felt. The night isn't starting off well for the Big Boss Man, but surely it can't get any worse, right? Sunday Night Heat ends with Mick Foley bumping in the Big Show backstage while Show waits for Stone Cold. Mick aggravates Show a little and the two end up fighting with each other, and this allows Steve Austin to walk into the First Union Center completely unharmed. The WrestleMania opening video is narrated by classy Freddie Blassie. It's about how WWF superstars become immortal and defy time itself by creating moments on the grandest stage of them all. WrestleMania itself can provide superstars with a chance to never grow old. It's a very well put together video, and it's one of my favourite cold opens to WrestleMania ever. It definitely gets you in the mood for the event. Boys II Men sang America the Beautiful, which got a much better reception than last year's effort by Chris Warren and the DX Band. And here we go, the showcase of the Immortals, WrestleMania 15. Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole are going to provide commentary for this extravaganza, and we kick the show off with hardcore action as new champion Billy Gunn defends his hardcore title in a triple threat match. He's facing Hardcore Holly and Al Snow. How many more times can I say the word hardcore? It seems that no one told old Sparky Plug here that Mania is a time to bring out your best and fanciest ring gear, unless this is his equivalent of wrestling black tie. We're set for a pre-match promo from Billy in Philly, but before he can get any words out, he gets attacked from behind by Al and the fight's on. Bob lays in a few right hands in the corner before turning Billy inside out with a clothesline. Al then takes turns stomping his two opponents before taking Bob to the outside and bouncing his head off the announce desk. Billy joins the fight but immediately regrets his decision when he gets sent flying over the ring steps. The two former Job Squad members then brawl up the entranceway with Holly delivering a suplex to Al on the floor. Billy then gets back in the fray with a receipt to Al Snow, and he introduces Mr. Snow to the ring steps this time. Al's the first one to make use of some weaponry, however, as he nails Bob across the back with a hockey stick. Bob then gets some bottles of Gatorade dropped on him, but Al gets whacked with the plastic container they were being kept in. The hardcore champ breaks that hockey stick over Bob's back before Al breaks a broom over Billy's back. Check out Snow's stick twirling abilities too. What a hero. The snowman lays into both Bob and Billy with the broom handle before Billy rolls to the outside to grab a steel chair. Al whacks him a few more times with the broom handle before taking control of that same chair. Snow sets it up, he launches himself at Billy in the corner before trying to do the same to Bob, but he misses his target. Billy drops Bob across the barricade on the outside, but when both men get back in the ring, Al's right there waiting to bop both his opponents with Head. Head then tells Al to grab a table. Al duly obliges, and as is the way in pro wrestling, he who sets it up must go through it. Billy hip tosses Al through the wood, and it's not looking good right now for Al. Billy follows this up with a famouser on the chair, but Bob uses that same chair to crack Billy over the back before covering Al. Hardcore Holly gets the 1-2-3, and Bombastic Bob's regained the Hardcore Championship. Not the best opener I've ever seen, I must be honest. Triple threats of this era were generally quite clunky at the best of times, and throwing in the hardcore stipulation really didn't help matters. Test and D'Lo get their shot at the tag team titles next. I still find this very odd, seeing as we had some pretty well established tag teams competing in that battle royal earlier on, but I guess the higher ups just wanted to get D'Lo and Test included on the WrestleMania card. Ivory, burnt face and all, seems a little disgusted at Deborah's WrestleMania outfit, whereas Jerry Lawler won't shut up about it. Michael Cole rightfully says there's no way Test and D'Lo could have talked strategy before this match, seeing as the Battle Royal ended less than half an hour ago. Jarrett takes a hip toss and a clothesline from D'Lo. Double J then goes down again following a running forearm, and when Test gets tagged in, he wastes no time taking out Owen with a gut wrench powerbomb. Owen counters a pump handle slam with an enziguri. He then goes for a sharpshooter, but D'Lo breaks it up. Test aggressively tags his tag team partner in, and D'Lo performs a leg drop on his former Nation of Domination teammate. A distraction from Double J allows Owen to pull off a spinning wheel kick followed by a gut wrench suplex. Jarrett tags in and we see a double clothesline from the tag team champions. A second attempt backfires when Jeff quickly tags out again, and D'Lo fights both tag team champions all on his own. Double J takes a sky high and Owen gets back in the ring to break the cover. Test then takes care of Owen as Deborah gets on the ring apron. Ivory pulls Deborah down, and the crowd pop for this way more than any of the action they've witnessed so far in this matchup. Back in the ring, Owen and Jarrett win the match following a missile dropkick from the King of Hearts. On the outside, Ivory's now arguing with Jacqueline and Terry Runnels, and when Tess blames Ivory for his team getting beat tonight, D'Lo decides to attack his tag team partner. Why this was booked for WrestleMania, I have absolutely no idea. A real waste of time that would have been more suited to Raw or even Sunday Night Heat. Brawl for All winner Bart Gunn faces Butterbean next. This shoot fight's going to be contested under Brawl for All rules, and it's one of the biggest farces that ever took place at WrestleMania. Instead of the WWF celebrating and pushing Bart Gunn as one of the toughest guys on their roster, the company instead decided to punish him for winning the legitimate Brawl for All fight tournament held in WWF. Jim Ross and others felt Steve Williams was going to win it, and this would lead to Williams beginning a main event run against Stone Cold Steve Austin, but Bart Gunn surprised everyone by knocking Steve out. Bart Gunn would go on to defeat Bradshaw in the Brawl for All finals. He collected a nice paycheck for winning the tournament, and the WWF, plain and simple, were better about it. Bart's facing a legitimate boxer tonight at WrestleMania in Butterbean. Butterbean flat out said that he was brought in as punishment to Bart Gunn. One of the nice things about this fight though is the fact that Gorilla Monsoon's here as a judge. Unfortunately, Gorilla's health was deteriorating and you can see he's looking quite frail here. But Monsoon gets a great, well-deserved ovation from the audience, and it's great to see Gorilla back at WrestleMania. Vinny Pazienza, or Vinny Paz, is our special referee. The bell rings, and after about 10 seconds, Bart takes a straight right hand that dazes him pretty badly. Another punch sends Bart to the mat. Bart gets to his feet and he tells Vinny he wants to continue. Really, the fight should have been stopped right here. Butterbean then walks over to Bart, he throws another right, and Bart gets knocked out on his feet. The way his neck snaps backwards is pretty horrific. Butterbean wins via knockout. Bart Gunn takes his time getting back to his feet. Bart would leave WWF immediately afterwards, and he had worked in Japan for a few years. So yeah, brilliant job WWF. Hope you got what you wanted here. The San Diego Chicken then makes an appearance at WrestleMania, and Vinny Pazienza uppercuts the chicken right on the beak. Nothing quite like a bit of comedy after a dude gets knocked the fuck out in a matter of seconds. Paul Wight makes his WrestleMania debut next as he takes on Mankind. The winner of this one's going to referee tonight's main event. Mick Foley explains he's already earned the right to officiate tonight's main event match, yet Vince McMahon kept putting more hurdles in Mankind's way. The Big Show's now going to deal with an angry young man, and Foley tells Show to try and have a nice day. Big Show comes out to no chance in hell. It's a little jarring hearing him come out to anything else, but well. Mrs. Foley's baby boy gets a rousing reception as he makes his way down to the ring. If anyone deserves some adulation for their efforts over this past year, it's definitely Mick Foley. Mankind takes the advantage early on with punches and forearms, but Big Show stops Mick dead in his tracks with a big boot right to the face. A headbutt sends Mankind tumbling out of the ring and the two men exchange shots on the outside. Mick's able to take control and he bounces the Big Show's head off the ring steps before looking for a double arm DDT, but Show's able to drive Foley backwards and he tumbles over the ring steps. Back in the ring, Big Show delivers a pair of huge chops in the corner before driving Mankind to the mat with a Russian leg sweep. Show then sets up Foley for a big right hand, but Mick's able to duck and Big Show spills over the top rope to the outside. This gives Mick the opportunity to reach into his tights and grab Socko. What did you think I was going to say? Show and Socko get acquainted, but 'tis only a brief meeting as another headbutt from the Big Show floors Mankind. Mick applies the mandible claw again, but once again Show's able to break it, this time with a big right hand. The third time may well be the charm though, as Mick locks it in one more time and the Big Show starts to slowly fade. Foley climbs on Big Show's back to apply more pressure, but the big man's able to fall backwards, crushing Mankind underneath 500 plus pounds of weight. Bloody hell, Mick, is there any chance of you taking it easy one of these days? Foley gets kicked out of the ring and Big Show follows him to the floor to grab a steel chair. The big man then whacks Foley hard across the back. It's at this point where I ask myself if this match was advertised as no DQ, because if not, this one would be over right now. Mick Foley would be declared the winner and thus the referee for the WWF title match. Alas, the bout continues as Big Show throws two chairs into the ring before setting them up next to each other. He then grabs Mick by the throat and he chokeslams him through the two chairs, causing Earl Hebner to call for the bell. That answers my question then, I suppose, as the Big Show's gotten himself disqualified. As it dawns on Show what he's just done, Vince McMahon comes down to the ring to berate his corporate giant, saying that he was counting on Paul to referee the Austin vs Rock match tonight at WrestleMania. As Show goes to leave, Vince gets in the big man's face, telling him that he's a nobody and to not forget his place. Big Show then grabs Vince by the throat and he hoists him up into the air, but he has second thoughts and he puts the boss down. Old Vinnie Mac doesn't learn though and he slaps Show across the face, so the big man decides to hell with it and he drops the chairman with a right hand before leaving the ring. I think it's fair to say that since he's come in, Big Show's been booked like a bit of an idiot, even here tonight at WrestleMania with getting himself DQ'd and whatnot, but at least he got the crowd on his side when he laid out McMahon. Despite all of this though, the fact remains that Mick Foley will be the special guest referee in the main event tonight, not exactly what the corporation had in mind. Jerry Briscoe and Pat Patterson helped Vince to the back, and Vince says he wants the cops called and he wants the Big Show arrested for assault. Road Dogg defends his Intercontinental Championship next against 3 former IC champions, Val Venis, Ken Shamrock and Goldust. Goldust comes to the ring with Ken Shamrock's horny sister and the Blue Meanie. Meanie and Ryan still have an odd relationship where they both seem to be vying for Goldust's attention. This is a 4 corners elimination match. It starts with Ken Shamrock and Road Dogg going at it, with Shamrock taking the early advantage. Road Dogg delivers a kick, a punch and a drop kick before tagging in Goldust, and Shamrock gets planted with a spine buster. Kenny Boy then falls victim to a running clothesline before Val Venis tags himself in. Venis and Goldust are the legal men here, but the big Valboski wants to beat Shamrock up a bit before focusing on the bizarre one. Venis reverses a curtain call and it's Goldust taking a spine buster this time around. Goldust replies with a clothesline before setting Venis up on the top rope. Val fights Goldust off before delivering a diving bulldog, and Goldust takes a fisherman suplex. We see the old accidental headbutt to the bald spot, and it's Goldust getting his dream shattered for a change. This leads to both Ken Shamrock and Road Dogg running in to hit DDTs on Goldust and Val respectively, and Road Dogg then tags in and everyone takes a dancey punch. The crowd absolutely love the Road Dogg tonight at WrestleMania. Venis gets violated before falling victim to a pump-handled slam, and Shamrock then tags himself in to replace Road Dogg. Kenny Boy puts Val Venis in the ankle lock and somehow Val makes it to the ropes. Shamrock doesn't want to break the hold, but the referee says he'll disqualify Ken if he doesn't let go. So Ken releases the hold and he ends up getting dumped out of the ring, where his dirty sister reads him the riot act. While getting his balls chewed off by his own flesh and blood, Val Venis hits Shamrock with a baseball slide, and the two end up fighting each other on the entranceway. Neither man makes it back to the ring on time, so it's a double countout. Shamrock and Venis have been eliminated. Sore loser Ken Shamrock decides to take it out on Road Dogg and Goldust with suplexes back in the ring before heading back up the ramp. The match then ends when Ryan Shamrock accidentally grabs her man's leg when Goldust gets whipped into the ropes. The accident looked absolutely terrible, by the way, due to poor timing, and Road Dogg counters a power slam with a DDT to score a pinfall victory. The action in the ring was okay, I guess, but the eliminations and general finish to the match weren't very good. I can't say I recommend this one at all. Meanie takes a lot of joy in Goldust berating Ryan Shamrock after the bout. I wish I cared about this, but I really don't. Sorry. The Big Show has been arrested. The big man's being escorted out of WrestleMania 15, and it looks like he's really uncomfortable in the backseat of that car. Is this another scheme by the corporation, or is the big man really done with Mr. McMahon? I guess we'll find out later. Kane vs Triple H takes place next at WrestleMania. Hunter's former valet Chyna has sided with Kane and the corporation, so Hunter's out for a little payback. Kane also accidentally shot a fireball at Chyna 3 weeks ago. Hunter said he didn't care much about Chyna, but he knows the fireball was aimed at him. So last week, Triple H blasted Kane with a fucking flamethrower. Not to worry though, Kane's used to getting his face melted off. Kane gets attacked by the San Diego Chicken before the match begins. Kane wants to know exactly who it is trying to take him out, and it's Pete Rose. Pete's trying to get revenge for WrestleMania last year, but once again he gets tombstoned by the Big Red Machine. Gotta say, I kinda enjoyed this. Pete wasn't advertised at all for WrestleMania, and having this little running joke going on's pretty good, so no complaints here. The DX music plays, but Hunter doesn't make his entrance. Instead, he delivers a low blow from behind, which we should really be calling a reach around low blow from now on, as the bell rings to start the matchup. Hunter tries to lay in a few mounted punches, but Kane keeps pushing him away. Hunter tries again a few times, but the same thing happens again and again. So Hunter uses Kane's own momentum against him to send the Big Red Machine out of the ring. The two fight on the outside where Kane takes a ring step bump, and back in the ring, Kane replies with a big boot. We go back to the outside where Hunter gets crotched on the barricade. Trips then gets knocked into the Main Street Posse and a fan throws their drink over Hunter, how nice. And Hunter gets his back rammed into the ring post a few times before Kane launches DX's leader into the turnbuckles. Hunter gets clotheslined, Kane's looking pretty good right about now, but Triple H kicks out of Kane's follow-up cover. Kane stops Triple H from making a comeback, and once again the match goes to the outside. We see a plancha from the Big Red Machine that seriously impressed Michael Cole, but back inside the ring, Kane gets thrown off the top rope. This gives Triple H a chance to hit the facebreaker knee smash, followed by the Harley Race knee, and then Chyna begins walking down to the ring. This can't be good for Hunter. Kane stops a pedigree attempt and both men are now out on the canvas. Chyna puts the steel steps into the ring for Kane to use as he sees fit, but Triple H stops the attack and Kane takes a drop toe hold on those ring steps. Hunter then knocks Kane out of the ring. He wants to pedigree his opponent on the base of the steps, but Kane counters it and Hunter gets backdropped. It's very hard to tell who's going to win this one as the momentum keeps swinging back and forth. Kane performs a chokeslam in the ring and Chyna grabs a steel chair. Chyna wants to be the one who puts Hunter away, so she gets in the ring. We think Triple H is done for, but Chyna swings at Kane and it looks like Chyna's betrayed the Big Red Machine and the corporation. The referee calls for the bell. Kane wins via disqualification, but Hunter doesn't care as Kane takes another shot across the back followed by a shot right to the head. Kane then takes a pedigree. You almost feel sympathetic for Kane as this goes down, but the crowd pop when Chyna and Hunter embrace and the DX music plays once again in the First Union Center. Chyna has rejoined Hunter. She's rejoined D-Generation X, and you better believe Kane's gonna be out for revenge following this betrayal. The match was okay. Not bad, but not great either. The crowd reaction to Chyna turning on Kane though was fantastic. Kevin Kelly says Mankind's been taken to the hospital following his match with the Big Show. With both Mick Foley and Show gone, we don't have a referee for tonight's main event. Vince McMahon then appears and Vinnie Mac has a solution. The slimy bastard's only gone and packed a referee shirt in his bag tonight for WrestleMania. Vince announces that he's going to officiate the Stone Cold Steve Austin vs Rock main event and he's going to go and get ready right now. The women's title's up for grabs when Sable defends against WWF newcomer Tori. Tori's been portrayed as a Sable superfan, but since Sable treated her like dirt, Tori quickly realised that her role model really isn't all that special. We haven't seen much of Tori's work heading into this match. We all know Sable isn't exactly Ricky Steamboat in the ring, so back in 1999, we really didn't know what to expect heading into this matchup. Sable grinds in the ring for the women who want the beer and the men who came to see her. Brilliant. And here comes Tori dressed like the female version of Jan Gonzalez. Not sure what's up with that ring gear, but it doesn't matter as long as she can wrestle, right? Well, we don't find out right away as Sable stops Tori from getting inside the ring. I mean, if you can't suss out how to get into the ring, then you're going to have problems, aren't you? Check this out, Sable using the ring ropes to launch Tori backwards. Very convincing stuff. Tori takes a few kicks before getting thrown out of the ring. She then gets puzzled again in regards to how she's going to get inside the ropes. So she decides to pull Sable out and the women's champ gets her head smacked off the apron a few times. It looks like Sable's genuinely pissed off that someone's actually attacking her. Tori gets thrown into the guardrail and Sable follows up with a weak looking knee strike. The champ then jumps off the apron and she totally overshoots her target. Back in the ring, she delivers more kicks and she ends up totally out of position when Tori clotheslines her because she was too busy dancing. This has been fucking dreadful so far. Tori hits a few corner clotheslines before covering Sable with a corner sunset flip. Sable kicks out and we get into a pin routine where Tori has to bridge out, but she can't do it and the move gets botched. Sable then misses a few kicks and Tori ends up taking out the referee with a crossbody. And check it out, Tori's supposed to land on her feet following a Sable bomb attempt, but she falls on her ass. The botch is bad enough, but Sable puts her arms out while looking at the audience as if to say, it wasn't my fault. A pretty large woman who would put Chyna to shame then gets in the ring to attack Tori. This is Nicole Bass, a former bodybuilder who wrestling fans may have known from ECW. She was apparently also a regular on the Howard Stern show. I'd know nothing about that. Nicole drops Tori in the middle of the ring. This gives Sable a chance to perform the Sable bomb, and Sable retains the Women's Championship at WrestleMania. I fully understand that Sable was popular in WWF and I fully understand the appeal she had, but she was absolutely terrible in the ring. No one can say otherwise. I think Tori's nerves got the better of her here. Tori had been wrestling since 1990, she's had years of experience in Japan, but at WrestleMania 15 she and Sable managed to have the worst match on the card by a country mile. We've got our European Championship match up next. Champion Shane McMahon versus challenger X-Pac. Shane won the belt from X-Pac a few weeks ago and Waltman wants to win it back at WrestleMania. Before the match, Triple H says DX is reunited and stronger than ever now that Chyna's back in the group. Shane better get ready to get his shiny corporate ass handed to him tonight, and X-Pac says, Shane, get ready for some pain. Tess brings the European champion down to the ring and the Mean Street Posse mark out when they see their boy. When X-Pac makes his entrance, he gets jumped by Pat Patterson and Jerry Briscoe, but the Stooges are no match for the 1-2-3 kid. X-Pac dashes down to the ring and Shane gets out. The boy wonder takes his time before getting back inside the ropes. Pac has to chase Shane around the ringside area for a bit, and McMahon Jr. thinks he's great after pulling off a leapfrog, but he ends up getting kicked in the face. Shane McMahon and leapfrogs just don't mix well at WrestleMania. Tez saves Shane from taking a Bronco Buster, and Pac has to chase the champ up the entranceway to stop him leaving the match. Tez gets involved again, and X-Pac gets his ball smashed into the ring post. This spot looked good, by the way, and X-Pac's now in danger of getting counted out. When Waltman gets back in the ring, Shane's able to go on offense with a few strikes and a slap to the face. And even though you can tell Shane's a bit green, you can also see that he's full of confidence. He's definitely not nervous nor intimidated to be performing at WrestleMania. X-Pac gets body slammed, but unfortunately Shane misses his target when going for a corporate elbow. Still, Shane's able to hit X-Pac with a low blow while Tess distracts the referee. Shane's then able to whip X-Pac over and over again with Tess belt, but X-Pac manages to dump Shane out of the ring to give himself a break. Shane owes being quite vicious tonight at WrestleMania. X-Pac jumps over the top rope and Shane gets taken out. The Mean Street Posse then try to grab Pac and Waltman fights them off only to take a clothesline from Big Test. Back in the ring, Shane performs a second rope elbow drop on the challenger, but when he goes up again, X-Pac's able to dropkick the champ and Shane gets his corporate nut smashed on the top turnbuckle. X-Pac covers Shane, Test pulls X-Pac out of the ring, Test ends up taking a bump at the ring steps, and Kid then gets a chance to whip Test with Shane's belt. I'm definitely impressed with Shane McMahon here tonight. Again, he's not the best wrestler in the world by a long shot, but he's playing his character very well, and he's also not afraid to take a beating in the ring. Shane falls in place for a Bronco Buster and X-Pac performs his signature move. Test interferes again by hitting X-Pac with the European Championship. Pac kicks out of Shane's cover and Shane misses when he goes for a Bronco Buster. Test tries to take X-Pac out again, but this time Pac's ready for him. Test takes a Bronco Buster as Triple H walks down to the ring, finally, and Shane then gets wiped out with an X Factor. While Chyna distracts the referee, Triple H does the unthinkable. He gets in the ring and he hits X-Pac with a pedigree. I remember being really surprised by this when watching live, but Hunter's turned his back on X-Pac and Shane wins the match via pinfall. It begins to make sense as Chyna tends to Shane and as Triple H continues to attack X-Pac. Chyna didn't leave the corporation to join DX. Triple H has left DX to join the corporation. The New Age Outlaws run down to help Kid, but Billy and Road Dogg get annihilated by Hunter and Test. And it isn't until Kane makes his presence felt that the corporation decide to leave the ring and get out of harm's way. Years later, we would learn that X-Pac and the Outlaws really didn't want Triple H to leave the group. The boys felt there was a lot more mileage left in D-Generation X, and they were worried that the DX name wouldn't mean as much if Triple H left the faction. Triple H, meanwhile, wanted to get away from DX so he could focus on his singles career. He wanted to be a heel again, and he wanted to be a true main eventer. Shocking scenes at WrestleMania 15 though. Not sure if I would have had this play out on the grandest stage of them all, to be honest, but when all's said and done, D-Generation X will never be the same again. Up next, we have arguably the lowest hyped Hell in a Cell match in history as the big boss man of the corporation takes on the Undertaker of the Ministry of Darkness, as this match is all about the story rather than the stipulation itself. The Undertaker's been making the McMahon family's lives a living hell as of late. He and his ministry have committed acts of physical and mental torture on the boss, with the Undertaker saying he owns the key to Vince's heart and soul. This culminated with The Undertaker and his ministry showing up at Vince's home whilst both he and Shane were at Raw, and Taker saying that he could be the father figure that his daughter Stephanie never had. Vince would turn to The Undertaker's brother Kane for help, but the big red machine would unmask and reveal himself to be the dead man. So it seems that Vince has chosen as head of security the big boss man to help rid the WWF of the leader of the ministry. The Hell in a Cell structure still had this aura about it, like it was truly something to be feared and it was only to be used in the most extreme of circumstances. So putting this match on, which had little to no build in regards to the competitors involved, it always seemed like a strange decision. Bossman doesn't seem overly concerned as he makes his way into the cell, and neither of the fans watching at home, as this is the time the WWF decides to show an M&M sponsorship. Nothing screams absolute terror quite like colourful delicious candy. The Undertaker is accompanied by Paul Bearer as he makes his way down to the ring, and I must say, this is my favourite incarnation of The Undertaker. I mentioned this before, but the Phenom absolutely looks the part at WrestleMania 15. Bossman goes on the attack early on, driving Taker's back into the corner with punches and body shots, all while talking smack. The dead man turns the table and he racks Bossman in the corner before dropping him with a clothesline. Taker keeps the pressure on, but Bossman counters a backdrop attempt with a swinging neckbreaker for a 2 count. The fight spills to the outside and Bossman gets driven into the cell wall, but he's able to repay the favour by sending the Undertaker flying into the mesh. The crowd really aren't into this one in the early going as Bossman grabs a set of handcuffs, and after driving them into the Undertaker's head a few times, Bossman cuffs the dead man to the cell itself before grabbing his nightstick. Bossman wails away on the Undertaker, but his shot to the head causes the handcuffs to break and Taker falls to the floor. Kinda sums up this match so far. We can see the Taker's been busted open as Bossman chokes him with the nightstick. Bossman gets in a few more shots before Taker grabs him by the throat and pulls him into the cage, and the corporate enforcer goes back first into the cell. Taker then grabs a chair and he whacks Bossman across the back before once again driving the Bossman into the cage. Back inside the ring, Undertaker scores with his jumping clothesline before going for old school, but Bossman kicks the top rope and Taker lands on his little creature of the night. The two then throw hands in the middle of the ring before the dead man delivers a low blow. A few boos can be heard in the crowd right here. Mercifully though, the match comes to an end as the Undertaker delivers a tombstone piledriver and the dead man gets another win at WrestleMania. This match was not good, not even in comparison to previous cell matches, it just wasn't good in general. There was no need for this to have been a Hell in a Cell match when a no DQ match would have sufficed, and all this stipulation did was give the crowd unrealistic expectations. That being said, the cell plays a role in some post-match shenanigans. Following the bout, the Brood descend from the rafters and they land on top of the cell. They rip a hole in the roof and they drop a noose down to the Undertaker. Yeah, you heard me right, a fucking noose. Taker puts it around the Bossman's neck, Paul Bearer raises the cell, and the big Bossman's being hanged on the grandest stage of them all. Now, don't get me wrong, I get that this is a cool visual and everything, but man, I don't think it was entirely necessary to do this in front of a live audience. You've got Michael Cole constantly asking on commentary whether or not this is symbolic, and Christ alive Michael, a man's dangling to death in front of your very eyes and all you can do is ask stupid questions? Maybe get a pair of scissors or something, you big idiot. So yeah, this segment's gone down in WrestleMania infamy for all the wrong reasons. And to top it all off, as Bossman's hanging there, presumably dead, Cole decides this is a great time to cut away the highlights from the WrestleMania Rage Party. Absolutely ludicrous. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the runner-up in the 1999 Royal Rumble. Vince McMahon won the Rumble match, but he foolishly gave up his WrestleMania title shot without consulting the magical and mystical WWF rulebook. Commissioner Shawn Michaels told Vince that if the Rumble winner gives up his Mania main event spot, then the Rumble runner-up gets to go to WrestleMania instead. And so, Stone Cold Steve Austin gets his title shot in Philadelphia. Stone Cold gave Vince the opportunity to win the title shot back. All Vince had to do was beat Stone Cold inside a steel cage, but Vince failed in his mission when his plan to use a debuting Big Show backfired in spectacular fashion. There hasn't been a great deal of storyline between the champion Rock and the challenger Stone Cold. Most of it centered around the Big Show, Mankind, and the special referee spot. And now that Vince is going to be tonight's special referee, it seems like we wasted a lot of TV time in the run-up to WrestleMania. Still, McMahon struts his way down to the ring looking pretty pleased with how all of this turned out. But he gets a surprise when Shawn Michaels' theme plays in the arena and out walks the Commissioner. The fans chanted for HBK when X-Pac took a beating earlier on at the hands of Triple H, but it looks like Shawn was busy trying to fix this whole referee situation at WrestleMania. Shawn says you can't have a WrestleMania without the Heartbreak Kid, and he's a little disappointed that he had to buy a ticket to get into the arena tonight. But Shawn's at WrestleMania to once again remind Vince that he needs needs to read that magical and mystical WWF rulebook. You see, there's only one man who can appoint an official at WrestleMania, apparently, and that one man is the WWF Commissioner, Shawn Michaels himself. So Vince has to get out of the ring. He's not officiating this match. HBK tells McMahon not to let the door hit him on the ass on the way out. Vince's corporation are barred from ringside tonight, and if a corporate member shows up, Vince will have a little meeting with the Heartbreak Kid out the back. Shawn tells Vince to hit the bricks, so it looks like Mike Chioda is going to referee our match instead of Vince McMahon. HBK and McMahon leave, The Rock's music plays at the First Union Center, and I've said this in previous videos, but I absolutely love The Rock's entrance at WrestleMania 15. There's nothing really special about it, there's no pyro or anything elaborate, but the music, the camera work, the way Rock carries himself as champion at WrestleMania, the guy looks like an absolute megastar, and it's just a great entrance. Steve Austin revealed years later that he forgot to pack one of his signature leather vests for this event, so he comes to the ring at WrestleMania wearing one of his shirts. Fans in the arena couldn't care less as they go crazy for the rattlesnake as he makes his way down to the ring. Jim Ross has replaced Michael Cole at the commentary desk for this next match. It's the WrestleMania 15 main event, WWF Champion The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Is it going to be an all-timer, or is it going to be mediocre like many of the matches we've witnessed at this WrestleMania? Let's find out. Rock stops Austin from doing his usual turnbuckle routine after stepping into the ring. Rock won't let Austin move an inch, so Austin throws the first punch and the fight's on. Rock dumps the challenger out of the ring and Stone Cold gets his head bounced off the announce table. The rattlesnake then gets choked out with his own shirt, but back in the ring, Austin fights back with more right hands and it's Rock who gets dumped out of the ring this time. The two then fight in the audience. I'm not a big fan of this at all, especially in big matches, because you just don't see what's going on most of the time. When the two get back to ringside, they end up fighting in the crowd again, and it's Rock who gets an advantage. Stone Cold gets choked out with some TV cord sitting at ringside. The two then head up the rampway where they fight beside the entrance stage. The Rock then backdrops Austin into the lighting rig that's set up right beside the WrestleMania logo, but Austin comes back by throwing his opponent into a camera boom before Rock gets choked out with some TV cord. The champ then gets thrown into the WrestleMania sign at the entranceway before the two make their way back to ringside. Austin tries a suplex, but it gets countered by Rocky, and Austin's head gets bounced off the ring steps. The Great One then rehydrates Stone Cold a little before getting his ass kicked at the commentary table. Austin has to hit 2 elbow drops before the table gives way, but Rock's now in a bad spot while Stone Cold's looking very good. Austin then repels Rock for spitting in his face. The two get in the ring, but Rock rolls out again. The champ begins focusing his efforts on the challenger's knee, and Austin fires back by sending Rock into the ring steps. This has been nothing but an all-out fight so far, but it's a pretty entertaining fight. When the two get in the ring, Rocky delivers the Rock bottom, but Austin kicks out at 2. Rock gets frustrated and he grabs himself a steel chair. Austin takes the chair away from Rocky, but he accidentally takes out Mike Chioda. Even the referees took unprotected chair shots back in 1999. Rock connects with a swinging neckbreaker and he stops a Stone Cold Stunner attempt with a back elbow. Referee Tim White comes down to take over from Chioda as Rock drills the chair into Austin's knee and gut. Stone Cold then takes a shot to the head and Rock thinks he has it won, but Austin kicks out at 2 and Rock has to now dig down deep. Yeah, there it is, a WrestleMania main event chinlock, absolutely legendary. Austin breaks free only to take a clothesline. We get WrestleMania main event chinlock number 2 as this match reaches God tier status. Stone Cold gets out again, he takes a Samoan drop, he kicks out at 2, and The Rock takes it out on Tim White. The referee takes a Rock bottom and Rock then walks straight into a Stone Cold Stunner. Referee Earl Hebner runs down to count the pinfall, but Rock kicks out. Unbelievable. Vince McMahon then shows up and Austin gets distracted. The Rock's able to hit the challenger with a low blow and Vince decides to get in the ring and Earl Hebner gets taken out. Vince and Rock then beat Austin up in the corner as the fans chant for HBK, but it's not Shawn Michaels who comes down to save Stone Cold. No, it's Mick Foley, the man who earned the right to referee this matchup in the first place. Mick smacks Vince before kicking the chairman out of the ring. Austin tries to steal a victory, but Rock kicks out. We see the Luthez press from Stone Cold followed by an elbow drop, but Austin gets floored with a clothesline before taking a second Rock bottom. And here it comes, the most electrifying move in sports entertainment. Rock goes for the corporate elbow, but Austin dodges it. Vince McMahon looks incredibly concerned as Stone Cold gets up looking for a stunner. Rock stops it from happening as the champ looks for a Rock bottom number 3, but Austin fights out and he eventually nails Rock with his finishing move. Rock takes a stunner and Mick counts the 1, 2, 3. We have a new WWF champion at WrestleMania 15 and Vince McMahon can't believe it. We get a big old WrestleMania celebration as Austin salutes the crowd. Mick Foley hands Stone Cold the WWF Championship and Steve enjoys a few beers in the ring. Vince is close to tears as he realizes the championship's left the corporation. And check it out, even Earl Hebner enjoys a Steve Weiser. He's getting a bit carried away, isn't he? Vince can't help himself. He calls Austin a son of a bitch and he says the WWF title belongs to him. So Stone Cold punches McMahon in the mouth before throwing him in the ring for a Stone Cold stunner. One last WrestleMania pop for Stone Cold Steve Austin. The show ends with Austin pouring beer on the chairman, Stone Cold stands over his boss as the crowd cheer, and WrestleMania fades to black. All in all, this is a weird WrestleMania, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of it. Whereas I can appreciate the chaos of the WWF's Royal Rumble pay-per-view earlier in the year, I don't really appreciate so much chaos at a WrestleMania event. In comparison to other Mania shows, this one felt a little too messy and incoherent. Personally speaking, I think match quality alone should carry a WrestleMania event, and this Mania relies way too much on the things that surround the matches, which, you know, I think should be already taken care of in the run-up to the event. The whole Triple H turn was quite shocking, don't get me wrong, but it feels really out of place happening at WrestleMania, and it maybe should have happened on Raw, or maybe even another pay-per-view. The special referee saga playing out at Mania 2, I felt was a bit stupid. It was also confusing during the build-up to WrestleMania, seeing as Mick Foley already earned the right to officiate the match multiple times on TV. So when you put all this together, you have a WrestleMania event that really feels more like an episode of Raw's War. The match quality is all over the place, too many matches that are way too short, including the tag and intercontinental title matches. And really, the only match worth checking out nowadays is the main event, but that one's also been surpassed by future Rock vs Austin encounters. So Mania 15 does not come recommended. I know a lot of you have nostalgia for this event, and that's good. If it gives you that warm nostalgia feeling when watching, then it's always worth going back to experience the event again. But if you go into it blind and expect to see the spectacle of WrestleMania, then I think you're going to be disappointed. Join me for Reliving the War next Thursday, and we'll see what's next for Stone Cold, The Rock, Vince McMahon, and all the other superstars of the WWF's Attitude Era. Thank you so much for watching this one. I know it went a bit long, so I do appreciate you staying to the very end. And please, take care.